Hello and welcome to Morning Trade with Moneycontrol. I'm Karunya Rao and I'm here to help you navigate the trading day with actionable trading strategies, sectoral trends and most importantly, your queries during the course of the show. Guys, keep commenting on our live feed and we'll have it addressed by our guest on the show. But before that, let's address what news are we tracking, what the global handover looks like. An absolute mayhem on Wall Street last night. Stocks suffered massively, their worst day of the year on Thursday, pulling back sharply and completely erasing a rally from the prior session in a stunning reversal that deepened the market losses for 2022. Dow lost more than 1,000 points, Nasdaq slumped 5%, S&P saw its second worst day of the year. European stocks also closed lower earlier in the day. Focus was on the Bank of England, which raised interest rates to the highest level in 13 years in a bid to tackle soaring inflation. In fact, their inflation estimates were also up. In its updated forecast, the highlight was the looming recession risk for the world's fifth largest economy. Stocks in Asia declined following the Wall Street tumble. SGX Nifty indicates a gap down start for the Indian markets. What's in store with the Lal Street? We will address that in our What's Our Trending segment. First up on the show. Let's touch base with my colleague from MC Pro, Anubhav Sahu. Anubhav tracks the global markets very closely, and what a day it has been. I'm sure you haven't got enough sleep, Anubhav. An absolute carnage on Wall Street.
Very rightly so, Karunya. In fact, it was a perfect reversal as far as the US market is concerned, and a kind of negative sentiment because of Wall Street we are seeing on the Asian market as well. And to my mind, I think it's almost a reaction to the synchronous monetary tightening of central banks. In fact, day before yesterday, notwithstanding market reaction in U.S. market, Fed chair did guide it for two more 50 basis hike in subsequent meetings, and there is of course a long tail to it as well. And then they back home in India, of course, RBI also did a reversal kind of a thing, and took number of steps to withdraw accommodation, which is kind of a pivot towards inflation targeting now. And what actually unnerved yesterday was the Bank of England rate hike decision, which was also which also came up with an outlook wherein they have pointed that there's a chance for recession in UK next year. And so I think it's a cumulative effect of all these actions in the last 2 days. And other than that, what can further unnerve market is, of course, the macro data, which can further firm up this hawkishness. So what we need to look at is inflation data for both US and Indian market, which will come up next week. And today, non-farm payroll in US would be key data to look at.
Wall Street may have been a day later. They have been, digesting BOE's commentary as well. Yesterday, we saw that playing out a day after Fed rate hike happened and Fed commentary was out. In general, what is the common message from all these central banks? And should investors back home, investors in an emerging market like India, should we be worried?
So I think the lot of things which are happening from central bank side, and particularly in US, is a reflection of institutional learning from late 70s and 80s when they had the way they tackled stagflation. And to my mind, I think there are two key signals which they are trying to transmit. One is that the inflation expectation should not become unanchored, which otherwise leads to pricing instability. For example, the long-term expectation in US for 5 years is around 3.2%, while I think the central banks would be looking at something close to 2%. And the second thing is, which is related to the first one only, that pricing stability is now seen as a precondition for a sustainable labor market. So, for example, the US labor market is doing quite fine right now. Unemployment rate is 2.6%, but however, this may not be sustainable for long if the inflation remains that elevated. So, in that perspective, I think it's a worry thing if the inflation doesn't remain under control, it remains unhinged.
Okay. All right, but what is the trend looking like? Again, SGX Nifty clearly pointing to a gap down open. Indian markets have already been reeling under pressure for 2 days. So today, one more day of massive correction, massive consolidation that you foresee?
Yeah, I think that should how it can unfold. I mean, but as I said, I think it would largely be hinged towards the macro data which is coming. And if, for example, inflation data or the non-farm payroll firms up more than expected, so probably there would be a higher expectation which will get priced in the Fed futures. So, for example, right now, Fed futures is pointing towards 3% towards the end of this year. And to my mind, I think the Federal Reserve would probably pause before that, because one also needs to take into account that the balance sheet shrinkage is also going to happen from June, and this will also have a knockdown effect as well as the liquidity is concerned.
Okay, well, not very good news coming in then for domestic markets either. It looks like it's going to be largely in line with what the bigger developed economies are working with right now in terms of cues and in terms of market outlook. Before we let you go, Anubhav, what is it that you like even amid all this volatility? We're in the thick of the earnings season. Most companies have already handed over their Q4 report card. So what pockets of the market look relatively damage proof, amid the market carnage?
So I would say that it's a pretty uncertain time. Macro uncertainty is quite high, and but at such a period, generally we look at the pockets wherein we see some kind of earnings visibility, and so in that sense, it becomes a more stock specific market. But in terms of sector, if I have to point out, I think there are two sectors which look good from a long-term perspective, both the exports oriented sectors like IT and chemicals. Though of course IT is a long duration equities and it tends to react negatively to higher rates. But I think a lot of contraction in the multiples have already happened this year, and some of the picks probably could be interesting in time to come. Similarly, for chemical, I think the demand side looks quite visible if you look at the export data for last few months. But we are more enthused about the supply side consolidation in chemicals. For example, the kind of the kind of way the China factor is playing in terms of closure of units or COVID restriction in China, sanction of Russia, or a chance of a suboptimal operation in Europe, which probably strengthens the case for Indian chemicals. However, if I look at purely from a valuation perspective, I think the sectors which look interesting are financials, relatively FMCG and autos, wherein of course one need to be stock specific. Given for example, in autos, EV disruption is something one needs to be cautious about. And FMCG, I think one can look at quality defenses which are good on pricing power. And financial, of course, one segment which could be interesting, particularly banking, because generally in the rate hike cycle, they tend to do well because of interest rate spreads and all.
Okay, Anubhav, thanks. I'm sure you have a busy day lined up given what we're working with in terms of queues. So we'll let you go. Thanks for joining in and giving a heads up to our viewers on what to expect for the market and the value picks amid all of this mayhem and volatility and uncertainty. Let's talk technicals now with Shivangi Sarda of Motilal Oswal Financial Services. Good morning, Shivangi. Great day for you to join us. Very exciting, lots of action lined up. SGX Nifty, it's below 16,500. What are we foreseeing for Nifty 50 back home?
All right. Good morning. And we've seen a lot of global markets have, dampened our sentiments today. And from the last 1 week, we've seen a lot of volatility. So Nifty, if we see that, it's failed to hold above 16,950 zones. And even in the last hour of the session yesterday, it drifted quite low. So it formed a inside bar, or you can call a bearish candle yesterday. And now we believe that till it holds below 16,888, weakness could be seen towards 16,500 and 16,350. Whereas upside, we can see hurdles are placed at 17,071 zones. Now, looking at the overall scenario, PCR did, little improve yesterday, and India VIX cooled off from its highs as markets surpassed two important events, including the US FOMC outcome and the sudden RBI's briefing, along with the change in the key interest rate. So, factoring in all these, factors and the dampened global markets today, which are down. So we expect the market to be a little range bound, slightly negative, and our levels would be 16,500 and upside 17,701.
Slightly negative actually feels like not a very bad news at this juncture, given what happened in global markets overnight. But for Bank Nifty, any levels to watch out for there as well?
Yes, so Bank Nifty, it did open positive yesterday and moved quite in a consolidation for most part of the day, but witnessed weakness in the second half, followed by the broader market. Now, I believe till Bank Nifty holds below 35,500, weakness could be seen towards 35,000 and 34,750 zones. Now, upside hurdles are, capped at 35,750 and 36,000 zones.
Okay. All right, let's talk about big boy Reliance Industries. It's going to be releasing its numbers today. Of course, it's largely expected to happen post-markets. But again, we're expecting a strong set there in terms of Q4 performance, stronger refining margins. Of course, oil rally will help the company this time around, and it's going to help the bottom line as well as the top line clock in double-digit growth in all probability. Growth is likely to be driven mainly by pickup in O2C and retail segments. So a broad-based kind of a growth we're looking at for Reliance Industries. Now tell us, how is it looking on the charts? Should one look at perhaps buying into a Reliance Industries after a slight cooling off that has happened on the technicals?
So see, if we look at the Reliance Industries chart, so it's been forming lower highs from the last four sessions, and quite a lot of weakness can be seen over here with shorts built up over here. But I believe that if the stock surpasses 2650, then one can look for buying zones over here, or else we can wait and watch here.
Okay. So Reliance looks like a tricky idea right now. Maybe a wait and watch is what Shivangi is suggesting. What about some of these earnings candidates from the mid and small cap space? A Candra Bank, perhaps. We're expecting a stable set of numbers there. Restructuring book, of course, is something that the street will want to know more about. But net interest income, bottom line, largely looking okay as far as Candra Bank is concerned. It's in fact one of those PSU banks which does witness a lot of action in terms of volumes, in terms of price movement. So how are you reading into the technicals of Candra Bank, and how does it look on the day of earnings?
So Candra Bank, technically it's trading below its 50 exponential moving average, and it quite is quite volatile from the last few days. And I believe once it surpasses its key important moving average, which is around 230 levels, then it can be a buying candidate. But or else it is a volatile stock, and one should be cautious in this.
Okay, so cautious view on Candra Bank as well. What about Tata Power, another earnings candidate? We're expecting it to have a steady quarter once again, as far as the Q4 performance is concerned. But the stock, last 1 month has not been very happening. The stock is actually down 15% and hasn't done much for its recent investors or traders. Tell us, how does it look on the charts?
So looking at Tata Power, it lost its momentum, after April first week, and quite a lot of downfall has been seen over here. But we are seeing some consolidation over here, and despite market has been in quite of a weakness, but this has been holding, from the last 2 weeks. So I feel the setup is quite positive, and once a little bit of momentum is built in the market, this stock could pick up and move ahead.
Downturn has also been witnessed in a couple of other Tata Group stocks, and we have a query coming right up. This is from Nashi S and wants to know about Tata Lxe. Again, a stock that has given up about 12.5% in the last 1 month. What would be your advice?
So looking at Tata Lxe, it has just negated its lower lows on weekly frame, and of course it depends on the candle formation today. But looking at the daily chart, if this stock really surpasses and holds above 8,000, then it might see good levels coming in for the stock, and it can be a good target around 8,350 zones. But it has to pick up little momentum provided the broader market also holds.
Okay. Another Tata stock query that we have, it's coming in from Kavita Ravichandran. She wants to know your view on Titan. Again, been slightly sluggish over the last 4-5 weeks. What is your advice here for Titan?
So Titan has given a weekly breakdown and is quite a lot of in weakness from the last few days. In fact, even the short build-up which has been seen from the last 2 days has been with increased volumes. So I feel the stock is going to continue in some weakness for maybe a week or something, and then we might see a reversal from 2200. But till then, we will just wait and watch for the stock.
Okay, all right. Let's keep it with some more queries. Abhijit Roy wants to know your call on Deepak Nitrite. It has been one of the traders' favorite stocks, Shivangi. What is your assessment of how it's looking, and what is the kind of levels to watch out for here?
Deepak Nitrite, it surpassed its key moving average levels on daily as well as on weekly frame, and there has been increase in open interest yesterday on the short side, which is quite negative for the stock for the time being. So it is a sell side from now.
Okay, all right. Well, moving on to some more queries quickly. We have a question coming in from Neena Day on Indraprastha Gas. Wants to know by when could it touch 500 rupees levels. Right now, the stock is perched at 348, and in fact, there's been a lot of interest in the oil and gas space and gas distribution companies especially. But going by the recent performance of the last 1.5 months, it has been a relative underperformer. So how long before it touches 500 then?
So looking at IGL, I feel there is more space for a downside over here. So it might touch 320 levels before it moves up, and so 500 levels are really far away. So it'll take a lot of time for that. But right now it's in weakness and it should continue in weakness.
Okay, all right. How about Tata Steel? We're getting a lot of questions on Tata Steel. Swarnadeep Maiti, and just now also I saw on the screen Rishabh Singh is also asking us about Tata Steel. It's been an okay week. I mean, despite all the volatility in the market, the stock has done okay. It's managed to hold its head above the water. Almost 3% gains coming in the last 4-5 days. But going forward, how does it look on the charts?
So Tata Steel, if we look at the chart on Thursday, it witnessed quite a lot of weakness and with extreme volumes on the short side. But again, on Wednesday, sorry. But again, yesterday we saw, some kind of, buying interest, still witnessed over here. So once it surpasses 1300 levels, then there can be a buying zone, and then we can see, upside levels to 1350 zones.
Okay. Another favorite that we get a lot on the show is Infosys. Right now perched below 1600 bucks. Has been once again a bit weak in the last 1 month. It's down 14% as we speak in the last 1 month. But is there any visibility that you're getting that the stock could see some meaningful positive action over the near to medium term?
So, looking at the overall market structure, the market has seen quite a lot of weakness in quite a lot of sectors from the last 1 week, and a lot of volatility as well.
Yeah.
But we have been seeing, IT stocks have been picking up from the last 2 sessions, and they are building interest. So from that, Infosys would be a good, pick. But we can see there has been a little bit of a consolidation over here. So it has to pick momentum to, move ahead. But definitely the entire IT space looks positive for the coming few sessions.
Okay, one question quickly coming in from Nishant Datta on Dixon Technologies. Yesterday, the stock was very much in the limelight. Good gains coming in there. Of course, they delivered their numbers recently. But talk to us about how the technicals are looking, and what are the direction that it's pointing to.
Looking at Dixon Technologies, this chart structure, we had seen a lot of corporate action from the last 2 days, and then it built up little strength yesterday. But once it surpasses 4100, then only there will be some kind of a strength over here, or else right now we can just see a reversal, but follow-up activity is required to hold its momentum.
Okay. Abhijit Dhar wants to know about Bajaj twins, Bajaj Finserv and Bajaj Finance. Any of these companies you like right now?
looking at both the chart structure, both of them are in weakness, and looking at overall financial space and banking space as well. So these sectors are a little bit of on a downside right now. So we would suggest we can avoid Bajaj Finance right now for the time being and look for better opportunities.
Okay, we have time for one quick question, and this is coming in from Shravan Kumar on Wipro. The downtick that Infi saw in the last 1 month, Wipro has more or less mirrored that in terms of quantum of losses as well. How do you see it performing over the next few weeks or months?
So Wipro has been forming, lower highs from the last 6 to 7 weeks, and it is quite, beaten down because it even, surpassed its, even broke its, previous important support zones, which was 533. So right now the stock still continues in weakness, and I see a little more downside over here.
Okay. All right. Well, we're running out of time, Shivangi. I hope, our viewers keep sending us their questions. We'll try and address them on Monday. But quickly, before we let you go, what are the top picks that you would like to recommend from your end?
So my first pick over here would be Hero MotoCorp. So here we can see that follow-up buying can be seen after a breakout on weekly frame with a strong closing yesterday, despite weakness in the broader market. And long built-up can also be seen in the stock. And we can see from the previous series there was around 93% rollover, which is quite positive. So I'm expecting the stock to touch 2600 levels.
Okay, and what are your other stock ideas? I believe you have a sell on DLF and a buy on Petronet.
Yes, so I'll talk about Petronet. The stock is, forming a very strong bullish candle on a weekly frame, and mechanical indicator like RSI has also given a positive divergence. And yesterday we had seen short covering move, and this should drive the stock. So I'm expecting the stock to move to 222 levels. And looking at DLF, we can see lower highs formation from the last 4 weeks, and it broke its 50 weekly moving average levels. And short built up can be seen from the last 2 sessions with volumes on the short side, making it a room for more downside. So I see it can touch 325 levels.
Okay, so a sell on DLF, buy on Petronet and Hero MotoCorp. Shivangi, on that note, we'll let you go. Thank you so much for joining in and sharing your picks, your views on different stocks and sectors. Guys, it's going to be a very important day, a Freaky Friday, or we'll see relatively better performance as Shivangi had highlighted. Let's see how the day pans out. It's time to wrap the show, but stay tuned. Markets with Santo and CJ is coming up next.